Hello, I'm Nate, aka Beach Mutineer, and in today's video, I'm going to take you through a list of my favorite mods that enhance the visuals of Dragon Age Origins. You may have seen some of these in my other videos about DAO mods, but I'm including them here because I consider them important to making the game look better. Of course, this is all subjective as every person has their own preferences for how they like a game to look like. I'm not saying you have to use each and every one of these mods, I'm just highlighting a list that to me makes the game nicer to look at. Do note that I won't recommend any mods that affect the character creator here other than the one Stubble mod that I use. I stopped using the character creator enhancing mods some years ago because I noticed that they could cause various visual glitches or bugs, and I didn't feel like the additions to the character creator were worth the potential headache later on. One other thing that I want to mention is that a lot of these mods that change or retexture multiple models are modular, which means that you can just pick and choose which models you want changed and which models you don't. This is a great thing to keep in mind, especially in the case of wanting to use multiple mods that affect the same area of items or props, such as wanting to get some women's commoner outfits with pants, but leave some of the other commoner clothes variants with dresses, and just improve the quality of their texture. Without further ado, let's get into the list. In the first category are mods that change textures and models of various props and items to be higher resolution and generally look more detailed. Dragon Age Origins Unofficial Remaster by Tepkunset upgrades most of the game's textures through upscaling, redrawing by hand, and replacing certain models with things from later games. It has over 1,000 improvements. One thing to note here is that some of these replacements from the later games may feel a bit strange to have in Origins, especially if you don't necessarily like some of the visual changes in Dragon Age 2 or Inquisition. You can of course choose which changes you want to use. For example, I don't use the Lyrium Vein model from Inquisition because I prefer the one from Origins. Shiny Weapons and Armor and Shiny Props by Average Delph Lover do exactly what you expect them to do. They make appropriate surfaces shiny, similar to how they are in Inquisition. There is also an optional download as part of one of these mods that ensures certain items that shouldn't be shiny are appropriately matte. I think this mod greatly improves the look of many items in the game because it makes them look more realistic, even if the models themselves are dated. Higher Resolution Paintings by Average Delph Lover increases the resolution of the various paintings you can find in the game. I think the paintings look really nice, so it's a shame they're low res in the vanilla game. A bit of a minor improvement, but all the little things add up. Blood Retexture by Average Delph Lover aims to make a particular kind of blood puddle look more believable. The puddle in and of itself is weird, so the modder did the best they could with what was there. Not game-changing compared to the previous ones I've mentioned, but nonetheless it makes the game look less silly. Clouds Retextured by Imaginary makes the clouds look a lot nicer and more defined, rather than the muddy clouds of the base game. You may not look up at the sky a lot, but when you do, it's nice to see a prettier set of clouds. Doll's Dead and Undead by Doll is a visual overhaul of all humanoid corpses and other dead bodies in the game. For some reason, the dead bodies scattered throughout the game as well as the undead you fight were not finished to the same standard as other game assets, so this retexture mod exists to improve them. I was bothered by the look of the humanoid corpses since they just look so fake, so I was very happy to find this mod. Elven Scenery by Commander Strawberry changes a bunch of the elven props to be more representative of how elven culture is portrayed in later games. Personally, I don't use the statues because some of these supposedly elven statues show up in weird places that I don't think they should show up in, which is a bit immersion breaking for me. But the other stuff like the Aravels, the Dreadwolf statue, Illuvian, Dalish tents, and rugs are all great. Lord Spartan Full Stubble by Lord Spartan is the only mod I use that affects something used in the character creator, namely the full stubble. It's more of a personal annoyance fix than anything else because in some of the hairstyles, the full stubble has a gap where it meets the hairline and it looks bad. This mod fixes that. The next category includes mods that change the models of weapons, armor, and clothes, usually using models or concept art from later games. This does also mean they are higher resolution and look more detailed, similar to the mods in the previous category, but they may change the look of the game more significantly by replacing the vanilla models, which may not be everyone's cup of tea. Retcon Light Armor Texture Rehaul by Horus retextures all light armors to comply with lore established in later games. Personally, I really hate the chitinous look of Dalish armors from later games. They look very plasticky to me, so I opted not to use the Dalish armor retexture, but the other light armors look great. Chantry Robes Inquisition Colors Fix by Jove B fixes the original mod by Saint Vec, which changes the colors of the Chantry Robes in Origins so that they look more similar to the ones seen in Inquisition. However, it doesn't change the model of the robes themselves, just making the colors red, white, and gold, which I appreciate because I prefer the model from Origins. Female Noble Clothing Overhaul by EU Dodo is a texture replacement mod for 5 of the female outfits designated as noble in the game, with designs either original or inspired by Inquisition models and concept art. It took me a long time to find this mod because I didn't like the look of a lot of clothing retextures since they made the clothes look too beautiful and somewhat out of place compared to the rest of the game. However, I think EU Dodo managed to create noble clothing that looks accurate to the game lore and fits right in. Pants for Women by Shanama replaces some of the women's commoner outfits with versions from Inquisition that have pants, for practicality. I've already mentioned this mod in a previous video, but since it's related to visually enhancing the look of commoner outfits, I'm also including it here. For Elden Menswear by Shanama retextures all male clothing, commoner and noble, cleaning them up and making them look overall nicer and more realistic. If you're going to retexture feminine clothing, you might as well make the masculine clothes look nice too. Blessings of June DAO by Shanama adds some new clothing outfits for Dalish characters, which are ports and mashups of outfits of non-city elves from Inquisition. Each model is in a separate folder for easy customization and conflict finding. Glowy Staves by Shanama replaces most of the staves in the game using models from Inquisition. I didn't like the Darkspawn substitute, so I kept the vanilla version of it. Due to the fact this mod aims to make staves glowy, it doesn't include Staff 3, the branch staff, because there wasn't a reasonable way to work in any glowy areas. However, there is a mod that makes the branch staff look better. Default Branch Staff Retexture by Commander Strawberry retextures the default wooden mage staff with a model from Inquisition, making it look suitably high textured compared to the other staves if you're using the Glowy Staves mod. I have to admit that this simple branch staff is one of my favorites in terms of how it looks like, so I was very happy to find a mod that makes it look nicer but retains the original look. I was also really surprised to see how even in Inquisition there were a lot of item models that had a strong relation to the previous games. Very nice. Finally, the last mod category relates specifically to Mage Robes. I think the original robes are quite weak visually speaking, so if you want to make the game look better, I highly recommend replacing the robes with better models. Dalish Keeper Robes by Commander Strawberry adds the item Dalish Mage Robes to the game and redresses Dalish elf mages like Zathrian, Lanaya, Marathari, and Meryl. This is a little bit of a personal annoyance fix because I didn't like that the Dalish mages were either dressed in Tevinter robes or circle robes in the vanilla game. This robe isn't overpowered either, which I also consider an important aspect of mods that add new usable items to the game. I used a version that uses the default game resources since I don't like to overcomplicate things. Male Circle Robe Replacers, Robes of the Void by Commander Strawberry replaces the male models for the Apprentice and Mage Robes with models from DA2 and Inquisition. Female Circle Robe Replacers, Bethany Robe Replacer by Commander Strawberry replaces the female models for the Apprentice and Mage Robes with models from DA2, the Aquatarian and Bethany Robes. Circle Traveling Robes by Shanama adds a new Circle Mage outfit with pants that is used as a more practical alternative to the regular robes, used by Circle Messengers as well as some mages out on the field. This mod changes the outfits for some of the mages at Ostagar and others outside the tower, and scatters a few of these traveling robes as loot too. I particularly like to use it in combination with mods that make the regular robes look better, like the ones I mentioned earlier, the male and female Circle Robe Replacers. Witch Robe Retexture by Tori is a simple retexture of the Robe of the Witch using assets mostly from Dragon Age Inquisition. The original model looks very unrealistic, let's put it that way, while this version is a lot tamer in comparison, but remains faithful to the Dragon Age look, unlike Veilguard. Anyway, another Chastened Retexture by Shanama retextures the male version of the Robe of the Witch and or Chastened Robes. I also think the male version of this robe looks unrealistic and doesn't really fit the harsh and especially cold environment of Ferelden. This retexture removes the bare chest and weird shiny strings. This has been my personal list of visual enhancement mods for Dragon Age Origins. I like for my game to look more modern and have nicer models, but at the same time I prefer for things to feel like they fit the game and setting, so that's why I gravitate towards mods that either just improve existing models or use assets from DA2 or Inquisition to modernize the look of Origins. There are so many more mods that either retexture items, add options to the character creator, or change the appearances of NPCs to make them look more interesting, diverse, or traditionally attractive. If those kinds of things are of interest, you can browse through Nexus mods in the various mod categories, and you'll find a lot more mods for your specific needs. In any case, I hope this list of visually enhancing mods for Dragon Age Origins has been useful to you. Let me know if you'd like me to discuss other types of mods for DAO. I might make more videos if people are interested. If you're looking forward to more videos about Dragon Age as well as other RPGs, do remember to subscribe, and leave a like and comment while you're at it too. They really help. A special thank you to my members who help keep this channel running. I'd really appreciate it if you consider joining the channel as a member to support me and unlock perks like early access to videos. This has been B-Tier Mutineer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.